It's Bruni from Lieb. Stefan Munker, pole sitting cars, dropped back to third position. Bertolini, involved in that scramble earlier on as well in the mid-pack, has dropped down into fourth position. There is the 25 ADR Delta car back on the pit lane, looking pretty decent. They're going to throw some fuel at it, they might as well. The Orica 03 Nissan, which has got Nelson Panciatici in.
No, it's John Martin.
Sorry, John Martin in it, the 25 car with Panciatici in it, who is still in the pits. No, he's just left.
He's just left. Yeah, I mean, he also stopped for what's like an unknown reason. I think but he's, in fact, that's him out of the pits now, I think, as he gets involved with the battle. I think it's the 51 or 71, the 51. They've done the AF Corsa, the Bruni and Fisichella cars really pulled away well in this first section. So not only are they going to last longer, they're also going quicker. They're 6 seconds ahead, I think, or 7 seconds ahead of Mark Lieb in the second place GT Pro car. So currently it's going beyond swimmingly for the Ferrari 458 there for AF Corsa.
At Chris1603, Chris Partridge to Radio at RadioLeMans.com on Radio Le Mans on Twitter says, how does the altitude affect the performance of the petrol and diesel engines? Does one have an engine? Conventional wisdom, Chris, would say that any car that has forced induction like the Audi diesels would suffer less from the thin air at 800 metres, as we are above sea level here, than a car that's normally aspirated. And so you would think that the Toyota would be at somewhat of a disadvantage. I think they're using their hybrid system to offset and mitigate that, Nick, and they're doing that very well indeed.
Well, where it used to be, I remember in the turbo era, when we had it was one of the tracks with the turbo, absolutely, when we were running both turbos and when we actually for a while. This is one of the tracks where the turbos did particularly well, and I think it's coming up the hill where you need all the power you can get, and of course that's the point when the supercapacitor is discharging as well. So they kind of get it back what they're losing. And the difference in the hybrid, because the four-wheel drive hybridization of the number one Audi, it's not allowed to deploy its hybrid power until it's doing 120 kilometers an hour, whereas the Toyota can do it from whenever it likes, from 1 kilometre an hour if it wants to. They probably wouldn't because of wheel spin, but they were getting the benefit of that push earlier up the hill, and you'll carry that benefit the whole way up. So perhaps that's mitigating what is theoretically a definite power advantage for the turbo.
It was 3 wheels on my wagon for the 25 car when it came into the pit lane, apparently.
Oh.
There is the Rebellion pit. Bart Hayden is the man on the far end there, looking serious on the computer. He's actually playing Angry Birds, but don't tell anybody. And remember, we've got to get this 20-second or so gap between the Toyota and the Audis before it comes in for its first pit stop. And every time it's got to take 20 seconds out of them on its short stints to have any chance of making up the ground of having to do what we expect to be at least 1, and on the cusp of possibly 2 extra pit stops here. It's not a particularly fuel hungry race here, as we're watching Bertie Breadstick have a look around the outside of Frank Mayer. They'll be side by side across the line. This is for second position in P2, and going Buffalo Gals round the outside. Nice job by Baguette, and there's the change of position.
I think Frank decided it wasn't worth fighting too hard on that one, in fairness. He's got Liuzzi behind him.
Liuzzi's steaming up through the field. His last lap time, his last lap time's not very good, 31.1. But
Liuzzi is wringing stuff out of that car we've not seen all season, and I don't think we'll see the next 2 drivers get in either, in fairness.
That's a fair point.
But, very wide there, one of the vets, and he's coming...
That's the 70 car. That is Pascal Guibon in 5th position in the GTE. And the Lotus is right up on the back of the Signatech. Has Frankie Mayer got a bit of a problem? You'd have to say it would almost appear to be that way.
Well, the cars look good. We've seen it talking the timesheets, both the 23 and it's the car 26 during the event.
The Cordova is the entrant of the Lotus. That was Baguette just a few moments ago. And there is...
Yeah, I think you're right. He seems to be certainly struggling a bit. Whether it's just its setup because the temperature is so much warmer than they've seen for a lot of the day.
Look at how defensive he's gone there into Jean Cao, heading up the hill. He's got no tyres under him. He's burned the tyres off. I wonder if that's what it is. He just doesn't seem to be able to keep the car on the circuit, and he's drifting wide, and this is going to be easy meat for Tonio Liuzzi as they go into the pit lane and across the hatching again. Blue flags are being waved. Now, interestingly, once he gets up to speed, That's clearly got a good donkey in the back of it. That's 23, the Nissan motor. No slouch at all. And look, coming up behind. That is Neil Yarney, is it? About to lap them.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Goes down the inside now. Can Liuzzi get a bit of a toe on the P1 version of the car? No, he can't. That was easy. Look at the difference in speed between P1 and P2.
Yeah, but also the interesting thing was the way that you said, that Panatigi was able to recover from Mayer was able to recover from an obvious deficit. It's got, you'd say, more ponies or less downforce, which might be why it's struggling around this part of the circuit.
It's got big sideways slide there from Mayer.
And he's got some wash out the front as well. I think Mayer's not got enough downforce down for this slow circuit. Look at right at the back end, Liuzzi now. This is a battle of downforce, and that Liuzzi's got so much more grip around this section, but it's one line only, and getting past here is not really possible. If someone wants to help you, and he's trying the outside coming into the first half.
Track temperature's only 26.3. They qualified in over 30-degree heat.
Sun's right out, and now
humidity down to only 60%, and we've seen that at 83, 85.
And as they climb, Liuzzi now gets up the inside. I think that's a mistake. I think he should try and stick more in the slipstream and gets more drag. Now at this point, he's got the lead. Now, can he get enough slipstream to get through? But I think at this point, the downforce levels come off, and Mayer can pull away again.
Yes. Yes, it's equalising itself once they get to a... that'll be interesting to see what the top speeds of the... Well, they're pretty much exactly the same, aren't they? We can see that as they're going through. Down in the first corner.
Of course, Liuzzi's doing that with a toe, of course, John.
Yes, that's a fair point. That is a fair point. Now, can he get a run out of the centre S and down the straight towards turn number 4? You can barely see there's a second car in behind there. Lapierre, by the way, 7.6 seconds ahead on lap 22. We're expecting him in 7 laps' time. Treluar's just put the fastest sector for him in.
Superb dive at the inside there, coming round 4 out the curve of Interlagos. And I think Liuzzi's going to make it. Now we've got the inside lines and Mayer's inside line. Do you know that Baguette pulled 2.4 seconds on him in 1 lap once he got past the Signatech car?
NFA, no further action for all those people being slightly out of position at the start. That's a wise move, I think, by the stewards. As we're continuing to watch the battle for 3rd place and Antonio Liuzzi now. Will we see a dive up the inside? Will he be able to use traffic? Will he run out of patience as single-seater drivers often do? He's being caught hand over fist at the moment by Elton Julian in the white, black and orange car, and that is going to take Liuzzi's attention, and he will know that they're going to be well off the pace at the moment. Mayer is 2 seconds or so off the pace, but gets just done a 29.3. And these guys are lapping in 31.7s. And here's the second of the Rebellion cars, the 5th place P1 car, Andrea Bellicchi.
Got past that on Julia, no problems at all. Now he's going to go up the inside of Liuzzi, which is going to split them. And that's going to mean there's going to be no chance for Liuzzi to get back down the back straight.
Unless he can get up right up under the rear wing of that Rebellion. No, he's already lost the toe of that car. The P1 will pull out the driver's left, as you see it happening now. And Mayer has a bit of a breathing space. That's going to be eaten up, I fancy, very quickly, Nick, as they start dropping down.
The car, yes, there's different downforce. That car's not working properly.
Yeah.
Now, for whatever reason, tyre pressures or whatever, or they've just got a setup that really isn't happy with the current combination of temperatures, it's a sitting duck. And with in 2 laps, suddenly 3 laps, Bertrand Baguette has got 7 seconds ahead in 2nd place overall in P2. Stefan Sarazan is 26 seconds ahead of him.
Watching 2 Nissan GT Academy mentors battling between themselves there, Liuzzi and Frank Mayer. As now we're looking at the GT battle for 3rd place between second place, excuse me, between Mark Leave and Stefan Mucker. And now, of course, as I say that, we're now looking to the front of the GT Amfield. And that is a change of position for Fernando Reis, and that's happened just since the start line. Well, there's the answer. It was at turn 1, and that looked very easy. It takes a while for the vet, it seems, to get warmed up, but once it does, and on the longer runs, it's clearly very quick.
Good point, John. Might explain the poor qualifying, because they have been the fastest of the hounds, and we've seen them, and certainly during the practice, we've seen them picking up in between the pros, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
So we're back now with Lieb and Mucker. second and third. He's still away by 9 seconds, the AF Corsa car. And this battle's going to get disturbed by third place man Alan McNish. I think he's going to actually get past with no effort whatsoever. So that's a bit of a result for Alan. He met those cars at exactly the right place. He was able to power up the straight as he goes past the 70 car as well, which is the other amateur Corvette. So hopefully we'll switch back now and have a look at the battle as Muka now tries to hop out of the slipstream of Lieb coming into the first corner. He's got him easily there. Used a bit of extra wind, I think, from the other cars, and he's got that little bit of extra push. We know that both his cars are a little bit more draggy than the Ferrari, but certainly the Porsche is more draggy than the Aston. And of course they put that thing on pole, but it's not looked so quick so far. It's dropped back 9 seconds from the AF Corsa with Jimmy Bruni. That appears to be a lot of Bruni driving, because the second Ferrari is 41 seconds behind Jimmy already in just 22 laps of those cars. So Jimmy put in a sterling performance, another one of our XS1 drivers who's driven around here with his Slicks and Wings car.
Still this battle goes on with Frank Nair holding off Liuzzi and Elton Julian now. So now it's a 3-car train. And now let's see. In fact, no, that's Pierre Caffer, excuse me. No, I'm sorry, I'm confusing myself. That is the battle for position. The two black cars, the Coupe and the open top car. Behind them is Pierre Caffer coming back, having spun in that first lap accident. The bright yellow helmet telling me that. So that wasn't Elton Julian closing in on them. Elton is still about 11 seconds further back. So this is Liuzzi trying to make up ground. This is Caffer trying to make up ground.
Yeah, he needs to lap himself. He's a lap down to these two guys, and of course the two ahead of him. So he's a lap down to 4th place in his class at the moment. Plenty of time to make up a lot of that gap, but obviously never helps you start yourself with a disadvantage like this. Well, I think about now Liuzzi has gone past fuming and seething, has moved straight to why can't I get past this car. He's going to need to be really, really brave. He's going to need to be careful now. He's tried this before. He's tried to get. I think he may have done it. He's done it. He's got enough run to get on the inside for the first part of, and that's just an extra bit of bravery as he went round the outside of the Bico de Pato. When he came to Hergulo, he was on the inside of the corner and he's got through. So finally he's released from that slow single state, and already he's pulled away, what, 15 cars length. But now can the Pecan car, which is a lap down, to get past easily. Now it's possible that Frank will let it through. No, it's not a direct competitor, but it's also possible to hold it up. But Liuzzi must feel beyond relieved. See the flashing lights of Nicolas Lapierre, and he needs to be a flashing race. In fact, he's got the 25 of the recovering John Martin after a wheel fell off his car apparently, and the Elton Julian 41 car Grease car. Gets both of those quite easy. No loss there, so that's a good big advantage for him. And we'll see when he goes across the line what his lead is after 27. So this is the window now, John. This is good. This is the furthest they've gone on the tank for. They've done 27 and a warm-up lap now. So perhaps we're going to see the true potential of the tank size of the Toyota. 10 seconds back now is Benoit Trollier. 14 seconds back is Alan. They're not quite where they want to be, but it's still workable.
And somewhere near walking, Paul Truswell is recalibrating everything.
Does Paul actually click as he does that? You know, like a whirring sort of, you know, difference engine, a human difference engine over at Bletchley. So we are now in unknown territory as far as total fuel consumption is concerned, but it does go with what John said, that they weren't empty when they weren't on fumes when they came in for that long run on Thursday afternoon. As Alan now climbs the hill before he turns into the start of the very, very tight complex, and that is started by La Harina before the Curva de S. I'm probably mispronouncing it, but I'm enjoying it. And now coming down again, there's a lot down. The elevation changes in the circuit, which look quite a lot on TV, are probably 3 times that when you're actually on the track. And looking at the infield from the back of the pit lane, one of the finest views of motorsport in the world. I mean, now we see the.
When we came out of it the other night and just stood for a good 5 minutes, just taking in the view. And there is the Pierre Caffer car unlapping himself. Now let's look a little bit further down. That's your leader going on to lap number 30.
No, 29.
No, he's completed lap 29.
28.
Oh, sorry, that's my bad.
It is his 30th lap. He's the warm-up as well.
Ah, yes, good point. So traffic now for Nicolas Lapierre as he picks his way around. Nick's just nipped off to get a pen. A pen. Is it animal, vegetable or mineral? Now, needs to make hay through this traffic. He's just going by Meyer there, and the Pecom. And the Toyota guys are getting ready. Now, they normally do this, Nick, about a lap, maybe two sometimes, before they come in. But I'd be surprised if they can get a lap 31. That would be very impressive.
We obviously don't know whether the Audis were on fumes when they came in on 37 either, of course, on Thursday. But
37 and 38 they did.
So I would think they'll do one more because they were just getting ready, and they'll be diving in next time.
Well, that's what Paul Truswell told them they had to do. So clearly they've been listening to us this morning.
They're saying 29. Is he coming in? No, he's popping back out again. That's good news for Toyota, because that means they will run 30 laps, we think, plus this. They've obviously always done the wall laps. They may be able to do 30, 31, depending on where they're playing with the full throttle and the engine maps. So they're a little bit more than we expected. But of course, the big methodology really is where will the two Audis come in. Historically, of course, the McNish Audi, the number 2, the Ultra, has been more economical than the hybrid. So, and I'm sure they would only 6 seconds apart. They won't stop on the same lap anyway, because that would really lead to potential issues. So, if the McNish car can do an extra lap, it will do the extra lap as the unbelievably quick strobing light there is flashing.
Trelliway though, 25.9, 25.3 for McNish against a 27.2, and that's all traffic. Catching that traffic in the 6, 7, 8, 9 area last time around, 2 seconds in one 2.6 mile lap.
It is, yeah, I mean, this is where, now theoretically, in the words of Offside Gold, it should play out over 6 hours to be pretty evened up, but I'm not sure if it actually does.
Looking there at the activation zones for the hybrid, you can see coming out as Young Cow, they can fire it up there, and that'll push them all the way up the hill. Going through the S's, that'll get them all the way down the straight. In the second one there, that'll get them all the way down the hill and up the other side. And this supercapacitor technology is very good.
There was only 4, weren't there, in Silverstone? Only 4 activation areas.
Yeah.
So it's interesting with an extra one here for a smaller, tighter circuit. Oh, he's done another lap. He's gone round.
24.5 as well last time around. Now, where will the Audis hit the traffic? And with that 11-second lead, bing back out again.
He gained 2 seconds exactly on
right.
and then one car, 1.5 seconds on McNish in the 2 car. So that's looking good at the moment. But now I'm wondering how many laps the Audi's going to do, because they've now done, what, 4 or 5 more. He's got 2 cars. He's got a different problem. He's actually the rejoining. Well, they've got Fabien Girard's got back out on the track again, John, after having most of his car taken away entirely innocently by the attack from the.
I think that message from Eduardo Freitas was about problems to the pit wall.
So, as he climbs up the hill again, will Lapierre be diving in for fuel? Comes through Cafe. He won't make the straight levels of 50 pound if he does stop for fuel. He's very wide out. He's going to be a late dive in if he goes for it. And he doesn't. About now, either Audi are going, we knew this was going to happen, although they're beginning to look a bit surprised, I would think. As they trot round to 31 laps. I'm sincerely hoping after the first stops we get an update on that email from Paul Truswell. I don't know how this is changing it all completely. Because we thought they'd be doing 20, perhaps 29, and we thought Audi doing 38. Well, already he's done 31, so he's going to do at least 32, and he's also done the warm-up lap. Now, whether they've managed to find a super map and they've been sandbagging, as they insist they were during qualifying, will remain to be seen. But Lapierre, moving through turn 5, tightening up turn 6, he's got one of the Morgans ahead of him. It's a 35 car. That's the car piloted in second place in P2 by Bertrand Baguette. So
he's made here when once he got past everybody else, he's disappeared off in the distance. He's put 9 seconds between himself and Liuzzi in the space of what, 10 minutes?
Yeah. Unfortunately, he's half a minute back on Sarazan, who made even more hay while they were stuck behind him, and now losing some time behind that 35 car. It is Nicolas Lapierre, and I think this must be his in-lap. He's come right behind, get out of the way, flashes urgently to make every last. This is the point now. These guys have got to push for every last yard. They can't relax for one car because they know how much they've got to gain. Sweeping down, will we now see the car peeling?
Yes, he's gone in.
So he stops on lap 30.
Oh, he hasn't! He hasn't!
No, he's come out again.
He's gone round! That was a very late decision, so he's now starting lap number 33. Ooh, now. So how many games were being played when we saw them doing their fuel consumption runs the other day, and how much further does Audi go? It's still only 10 seconds between himself and Treluet.
15 to McNish, and he's going to try and... Oh, he's lost some time there. He's got stuck behind the Aston round 2 quick corners, and that's where you lose a lot of time if you're a prototype, because that's where you have the major speed advantage over everything else, with your downforce and your grip giving you high speed around the corners, and getting stuck behind there in a braking zone about a GTE car. That'll probably cost him at least half a second just for one corner, coming up now behind the JWA Avelia car.
The sound that you heard in the background, that thud, says Johannes Graglica on the forum at radiolemans.com, was Paul Truswell falling off his chair.
Well, I hope he gets back on his chair again and recalculates in his head. So we're now looking at a train, once again, of P2 cars, though I think none of them's actually on the same lap. It's a Signatech car, followed by the Peacon, and then in fact we have the first P2 car going for petrol. I think it must be Liuzzi's coming for fuel, or is his teammate? No, that is the 31 car. No, that is his teammate. Thomas Holzer comes in from 5th in P2.
Very arty shot.
Andrea Bellicchi comes in the Lola from 7th. Now that's interesting because when we were at Silverstone, John, the petrol cars, or the petrol privateers, were doing more laps than the Toyota on their tanks. And at the moment, it looks like the Toyota's never managed to catch that up. So there's also been some very clever engine mapping going on in Cologne, it would seem, over the past 3 or 4 weeks, to try and eliminate some of this problem they have in the Achilles heel. But they've at least picked up 2 laps. That's when the Rebellions were coming in. They were doing about 2 laps of Silverstone more, weren't they? And in has come our leader finally on lap 33. Wash and brush up.
So that was the end of lap number 33.
Yeah.
So the start of lap number 34.
And it is a simple fuel only, and away he goes. Oh, slightly slow getting away again. He'll whoosh away on milk float power, and then dive in the first corner. So the lead now taken over by Benoit Trollier. And the question we need to know is how many more laps can Benoit run before he needs to come in for a big glug of diesel? And then, of course, can Alan run even more in the sister car before the Ultra car needs some diesel? So already, though, we're only, 47 minutes in, we're beginning to see the picture of this. And certainly we've been surprised by Toyota. Will we be surprised by Audi? Were they also quite happily full of tank when they came in after their long run on Thursday afternoon?
So Treluet's gone through in the lead. McNish has gone through in second. What I didn't see there is whether they changed tyres on the Toyota.
No, they didn't.
Right, so it was fuel only.
52 seconds. That's a little bit quicker than you were doing in Silverstone. Silverstone needs the stops with fuel only about 61. That's down purely to the speed of the in and out of the pit lane. And the advantage is that whilst you think, well, hang on, that they're going past at a massive speed, you actually miss out the center S's, that slow period before you rejoin again. So you gain speed at the rejoining point of the lap.
That's a Rebellion wheel.
It is.
They're the only people
so they
that
have changed. Perhaps they didn't need fuel. Perhaps there's a tyre issue. So 3 classes coming towards us. It's the leading car, Benoit Trollier, followed by one of the Morgan Oaks.
Yes, I was going to say 4, but it was a Lotus and not a Rebellion, because the Privateer is almost a separate class now, and the FIA have accepted that by giving them their own World Championship, haven't they?
We certainly, at the moment, Rebellion are doing particularly well in, but a couple of slips, and they have got the advantage of 2 shots in their 2 bullets in their chamber, but they slip, and they certainly benefited very much from the win in Le Mans, but because it's double points. But a couple of slips, neither Johnny Kane or Peter Dunbracken, either the Stracker or the JRM, could come back and start challenging them for that Privateers trophy.
So lap 35 at the moment, at least another 3 or 4 to go. Very, very interesting. Only 33 laps.
So Primaz there's a driver change on the 13 as well, and Primaz got in. Neil Yarney's coming for fuel.
Well, that's why they've changed tyres, because
Yeah.
there's no point putting a new driver in on old tyres, is there?
No. So Neil Yarney's coming in as well. So both the Rebellions will stop for fuel within a lap, or either on the same lap or within a lap of the Toyotas. Toyota powered as well. A completely different engine, of course, in the back of that car than in the TS030.
And Pierre Caffer continues his fight back through the field. Looks like we're going to get the GT cars out. Interesting, a Peugeot branded hand device there for Nick Manassian.
And that'll be for the PCOM car. So
Yeah.
he'll be coming in to take over that. He's obviously was allowed to take the hands device with him when the contract was terminated.
Well, yes, but don't forget he left before the move.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
Oh.
You remember talking to us at the end of the
Oh,
season
yes.
saying he was off to do something else. He wouldn't be renewing with Peugeot.
He obviously knew more than we did.
Mm.
And the PCOM car we can
He
see
said
now.
not. He said not. He said he just got a bad feeling. Do you remember that interview he did on Midweek Motorsport?
Yeah.
Meantime, this gaggle of prototype cars, which has John Martin at the back of it, who is also making up ground again. He's down on lap 30, whilst the leaders in class are on 33 now. Baguette is just completed.
Liuzzi's coming in P2 from third, and he's taking a tyre change. I think
Elton
they may have
Julian's
done a
come
driver
in from
change as
fourth.
well.
Sarrazin now in the pit lane.
So they've all come in as well.
Interesting that they're doing driver changes early on the P2 cars. That could be. I think that must be down to the heat, Nick. There is the 44 Star Works.
I think looking at the
Honda.
helmet there, I think Potolicio's got into that, wasn't he? Because the helmet seems to have the right colours for Potolicio rather than Ryan DL. I could be wrong. No, he's got the yellow and blue. So perhaps it's a time they decide now they're going to get the silver and gentleman drivers in, run them for a bit. It'll be the tactical case. We're waiting for the Liuzzi car. Lost a lot of time in the pits compared to the Elton Julian machine, and it hasn't even started up yet. They've got a problem with the 32, John. So after all that good work that Liuzzi did, there's a problem getting the car restarted. Where they got? Do you think they got a Renault alternator? As in comes the 49 PCOM, that will see Nick Manassian take his first mile in anger in that particular LMP2 car. He has driven every other single LMP2 car in the world this year.
He's had 4 different drives, Nick. Don't exaggerate so much. Pierre Caffer out, and Nick Manassian into the 49 as we were expecting. Pierre Caffer will help with the belts as he's allowed to do. No other work allowed to continue to be done on the car other than the fueling. The fueler getting ready to pull out. He's waiting it out. Away goes the fire bottle and up goes the car. They're taking a new set of Dunlops. So new tyres.
New tyres. Johnny Kane has brought the Stracker Engineering HPD in, but that's the driver staying in and no tyres being offered. So that's a fuel only. He'll double stint those tyres. And in comes the Audi. The leading Audi is in on lap 38, or at the end of 38 laps. Now that must throw this much more towards Toyota than we were saying earlier. Because we were talking about a 9-lap difference, John, and the actual difference is 5.
Yeah, yeah.
Which, to my mind, very basically means you need to have half that distance, because it's half the gap. So you need to be about 0.3 or 0.4 seconds faster. So unless Alan can do 2 or 3 laps more, I'd say at the moment it's advantage Toyota as the Toyota goes past the start-finish line and moves into second place. I just called the Toyota a Peugeot, I do apologise, but we need to see Peugeot earlier. We do have a pound in the Peugeot swear jar, by the way.
So 50,000 reals actually, it's been inflated this week.
And I never got that bad. I never mind, but once Paul Trustwell made a mistake, I was less worried. Well, that's fine. If Paul gets it wrong, it's fine for all of us. So Troyer has rejoined in third place. No driver change, no tyres for the Audi there, and a 51-second. Now this is the second thing, John. The difference in laps in pit stops was 1 second, not 4. So I don't know what Toyota have done about fuel flow rates or making their tanks better.
Tyres? No.
No.
Right.
We saw every single stop. We saw 5 seconds, and they complained about it to us. What can we do? Our stops take longer. Well, they're not. That's a second this time. Now, again, as Alan comes into the pit, so Alan's just done 1 lap more. He's only done 39 in the car in the 2 cars. So 33 laps for the petrol hybrid Toyota, 38 laps for the hybrid diesel Audi, 39 laps for the ultra diesel Audi, and a minimal gain on pit stops. At the moment, I'd say it's advantage Toyota.
38 for McNish, 37 for Lapierre, for Trellier.
Oh yeah, they have. They've tagged the thing, haven't they?
Yes. Okay. Because they're all down at that end of the pit lane, so you've got to get
good
them
point.
on the go through.
Yep.
So there goes the Toyota back into the lead with Nick Lapierre on board. Now, what kind of difference has he got between himself and Trellier in those laps that he was in the pits? There's the question. Has he been able to continue to pull out? He's doing decent lap times, 25.6. It's Still 11 seconds.
So, and again, the stop for McNish, 51 again. So 51 and 51 for McNish and for Trillier, 52 for Lapierre. So that advantage seems to have at least 3/4 of that seems to have disappeared.
Well, and we said it was going to need to be somewhere near 20 seconds if the gap was as big as it was in laps. Does that mean if it's 10 or 11 seconds with half the gap that they're on target?
It would, to my mind, it would. But of course, I'm sure that Paul will work out whether that amount of laps will actually save you a pit stop or not. Because it could be, rather than needing a whole pit stop more, they need half pit stop more.
Wow, very interesting. Very interesting.
I'm loving this. This is fantastic. P2 has now sorted itself out after the first round of pit stops, and it is Bertie Bradley who's taken the lead. Mainly because
P2,
he's done a fuel-only stop, whereas Enzo Potoliccio is a fuel and driver stop for the HPT 44 Starworks, so he's actually taken 40 seconds longer, and only 10 seconds behind. Another fuel-only stop for the third place man. It's Thomas Holzer in the first of the two Lotuses, a 1:28.
Oh yeah, sorry. I remember a well-known chip paper rapper was complaining about us talking about fuel consumption of the cars. Apparently called it dull, uninteresting, and completely insignificant to the outcome of the race after Silverstone,
right.
Which proves that they know nothing about sports car racing. But we've known that for a long time,
well, yes.
And they don't care about it either, despite what they say. That was just a nonsense thing to say. If you're new to sports car racing, it's about the whole package. And if you don't understand that you can go quick and long like the Ferraris can, or very quick and not quite as long as the Toyotas can, and how that's going to affect the outcome of the race, then go back to watching 25-minute national races at Thruxton, where nothing gets too complicated for your little brains. And I'm not talking to you, dear listener. I think you get what we're seeing.
Okay, we haven't had the stops yet for the GTE cars, and Stefan Mucker has managed to eke about a second back of the 10-second lead that Jimmy Bruni had at one point, but it's still, the Ferrari's still 9 seconds ahead, but with its fuel advantage as well, John, so that's not looking particularly good at the moment, but we're still more than 5 hours to go. It's just at the moment. The Fernando Reis, since he's got past Paolo Roberti, has managed to pull out about 9 seconds on him.
Right.
So that's where we expect it to be, and it's going to be a lot more a battle of the second and third drivers there as we go. As the second place car, the Benoit Trollier car, was stuck within an awesome amount of traffic at the last lap, which is evidenced by the fact the lead is now 13.2 to Lapierre. So Lapierre had a good lap, Trollier had a bad lap, nothing to do with their driving, everything to do with traffic. As the 24 Morgan Oak comes in for its second stop, the first one was a precautionary check after it got involved in an accident early on. It has since had a second spin, but now this time it's going to be fuel. My guess was it would be tyres as well, as I'd expect they would have damaged them slightly in one of those two spins. I don't know though.
Our clever listeners, Lachlan Hines, has just said it's not a linear thing. The pit stop difference will always be more important. He's right, of course, because we're talking about tenths of a second gain on the track. If you lose or gain 4 seconds in the pits, that's a lot of those tenths of seconds. And Toyota only lost 1 second in that pit stop.
Well, we now know that a fuel pit stop is 51 seconds.
Yeah.
So that is
a good fuel pit stop.
That is what they have to be ahead.
It'll be a bit more
at some point.
It'll be a bit more than that, Nick, because they'll be conservative on the first run. They'll always be conservative on the first run, because they won't want to push the envelope. We'll see though. We'll see how hot. We haven't got access, I'm afraid, to all of the fuel flow data that we had at Silverstone, which meant we could actually see how many litres were going into the car. I can tell you in the Green X Challenge at the moment that it is the number 2 Audi of Alan McNish once again making this Green X Challenge his own this year, that leads the way ahead of his teammate in second, and the number 21 of Johnny Kane, who is down in 5th place, and
I have to be honest with you,
second
I
in
don't
the privateers.
I don't really understand how the diesel is more green than the hybrid, which is using less fuel. It's got a smaller tank and is ahead of it at the moment. So I obviously need to revisit the 18 pages of calculations of the Green X Challenge, because my little brain don't work it out, John.
It's a very, very complex logarithmic.
But can you see my basic concept?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's not just that though.
No, it's tyres as well, isn't it? And
yeah.
also sweat and birthday cake probably. Baguette from Potalice, from Holzer, from Olivier Lombard now in the 23 Signatech car is running in P2. It's Bruni from Mucca from Bertolini in Pro, because we've just had a pit stop from the Porsche. The 77 car's coming first. So that means we're probably going to see Darren next couple of laps.
Number 35. Yeah, we are same lap time now, so Enzo is doing good job, and after Ryan will go, and I hope we stay leading. Thank you.
Fantastic lappery by Nicolas Lapierre. 2 seconds out of the chasing Audis in the first sector.
He's absolutely flying. I think that Troy has been lucky with traffic. I've seen where he's been reaching, and he's been effectively going into first corner following 3 cars because he hasn't quite got there. So I think there's a little bit of ebb and flow in this, but certainly the performance that Lapierre's put in since the pit stop, he's now pulled the lead out to, I think, when they cross the line this time, it's going to be about 19 seconds, and we were saying 10, weren't we, just a few minutes ago. So that is a big gain in a very short time, caused mainly by traffic. Alan's having the same problems. It's 18.2 seconds his lead now in front of Ben Trolley. I think Alan's had some problems as well, and he's now about 7 seconds back. Yeah, he's 6.5 seconds back from Ben. Still very much in touching distance with 5 hours to go, but this has not been a good 10 minutes for Audi. They've both dropped way off the cars. A good first sector again from Nico. He's got a P2 car in front of him, as you can see. A blue and white hybrid, supercapacitor, double wing with its bigger
wheel arch extensions.
Wheel arch extensions. Yeah,
nipped down to Halfords for them, they did.
Yeah, I've heard that, yeah. And a nice work, good driving there, good heads-up driving from the 24 there.
Well, you'd expect that. You know, that is Mathieu Lehay. There's David Brabham in the pit lane. Had a little birthday celebration earlier on this week, as into the pits comes Fernando Reis, giving up the lead in GTE Pro to Paolo Roberti. Is that the first hour over and done with already? My goodness, how times fly when you're enjoying yourself. Toyota leading by 18.2 seconds, having made a pit stop, and now about a third of its way to its second pit stop from the 2 Audis. Privateer is being led by the 12 Rebellion, who has got a decent gap between himself and Johnny Kane, chasing them down in the HPD. In P2, Baguette, Potalicio and Holzer are the leading 3, but there's 13.5 seconds between first and second as the pit stops are beginning to play out. Bruni, Mucca and Bertolini. So does that mean Ricard Leitz has made a stop? Yes, he had. The Porsche not as fuel efficient as the Aston or the Ferraris, and we're hearing, as Nick mentioned earlier, but if you are just joining us, there is talk of trimming back the Ferrari's advantage on fuel consumption by giving them a smaller tank. We're in the middle of a flyaway section for the FIA WEC that sees 3, in fact 4 races come in very close quarters indeed, where the teams are unlikely to get back to their bases, so can't give the Porsche bigger tanks. The Aston already got bigger tanks and bigger restrictors, of course, so the easiest thing to do is throw a handful of ping pong balls in the tanks of the
I'm sure it'll be very expensive ping pong balls, manufactured probably out of carbon fibre.
Well, there'll be something that won't react with the fuel, as in comes the 88, the sister car of Paolo Roberti, having just taken over the lead in GTM. It will give it now to Enrique Benaldi, who was involved in that first lap shenanigan, of course.
It's when the 61 finally comes in, he's going to park right in front of us. I'll be interested to see how much the front of the car's missing. But the 61 people are checking the fuel tank now, but we haven't seen, we're about to see the Aston come out. There's Darren Turner, suited and booted in the pit lane.
Okay, so that was 38 laps for Might have jot this down in another part of your piece of paper. Number 77, 38 laps. This is for GTE.
Yep.
Sorry, we'll annoy everybody by talking about fuel again in a moment because it's not that important in
No,
endurance racing.
nothing to do with it. Everyone knows that.
Okay. 39 for
No, because I think it'll say 40 when you get across
40. Yes, 40 for Muka. I think it'll be as he comes in. And then we've got to see how far Jimmy Browning can go.
106.
Yeah. So I don't think it's quite...
Oh, I think it is.
do you think it's that? So there is the leading Toyota. And we'll have some... We'll recap the first hour for you in just a moment's time as we're just some 7 minutes inside. Interesting start to the race. It looked to be decent, but then as they came through, it all went, well, one or two people trying to brake early, and then we were racing for 6 hours, and it all got a bit unnecessary down at the first corner. Leader gets away, and that seems fine, but behind them, little bit of a slide by Pierre Caffer. Was he bumped into it by the 24 car, or did he do it himself? Jean-Denis Delatraz, for once, a hapless bystander, braking hard and having the 61 car ride right up over the top of him. And then the battles began properly. And we've seen plenty of it. It's been all about traffic and dealing with it. Seconds can be lost in sectors, not in laps here, in a full lap here. Alan McNish getting caught up and lost second position to his teammate Trellier, who's held on to that after the first set of pit stops. Whilst all the while at the front, the Toyota carrying on leading, not content with being involved in one incident. The 24 and the 25 caught up again. And we think the 25 may have lost a wheel, although not clearly in that contact. That wasn't hard enough for it. But Antonio Liuzzi spent a long time bottled up, as did Bertrand Baguette, behind Frank Mayer, whose car has dropped the wheel a little bit, although Olivier Lombard's back on the pace.